What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we begin talking about our penultimate Paladin subclass, and that is the Oath of Vengeance. I know a lot of people love this subclass, one of the more violent paladins out of there. You know, if you can't get it done through being nice and persuasion, kind of like what we talked about last week, then we're just gonna do it by cutting down all of our enemies who need to feel the wrath of our deity. So it's gonna be a lot of fun talking about this one. Make sure that you leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of 5,000 by the end of this year. I think we can do it, but of course I need your help in order to get there. Then of course make sure to click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded, and share the video with your friends. One short little preamble that I want to put in into this video and then my subsequent videos for the next couple of weeks. I wanted to let all of you know, I've mentioned this a long time ago, but I haven't mentioned it in a while, but I am about to become a father for the first time. My wife is very, very pregnant, and we are actually due this week. So I'm trying to get a lot of videos pre-recorded for you for finishing up Paladin. But basically I may not be so active in the comment section over the next little bit because, you know, I'm not sleeping. And so I just wanted to let you all know that that is something that's going to be happening. I will then be taking a little bit of a break from the channel once we get done with Watchers next week in order to try to get some sleep and reset before we move on to Ranger. But I just wanted to let everybody know, and I will be reminding you in future videos that come up between now and the end of the Paladin kit. But so yeah, with that out of the way, let's jump in. The Oath of Vengeance Paladin is, of course, the paladin that likes to hit stuff. It likes to go after those who have wronged it, right? So last week we talked about Oath of Redemption, right? Oath of Redemption is something bad happened and now you want to make it right. Well, this something bad happened and you want to make it right, except everybody has to die in the process. So it's very different ways to react to a situation, and that's what makes the Paladin kit super flexible, right? In that you can go into a situation where it would affect two characters completely differently and you end up with the same chassis, right? But completely different stories, completely different ways of functioning. And I think that's a really cool design choice. This has a lot of ways to deal extra damage, but how good is it compared to other subclasses? Let's find out. Starting off, as always, at level 3, we're going to get our expanded spell list. And so here is that list. We get some really great options here. Bane, Hunter's Mark, Hold Person, Misty Step, Haste, Banishment, Dimension Door, Hold Monster, Scrying. Like, pretty much these are some of the, you know, greatest hits of any spells within their spell list. But I mean, these are just some awesome things. Most of them are not already on the Paladin kit, and so they give us some really great options, such as Dimension Door gives us a lot of really good mobility, right? Being able to move a long distance by teleport can be really, really huge. Bane is a great support feature. I guess utility could also be in there in making sure that your enemies have negative modifiers to certain rolls, which is great. Hunter's Mark, free extra damage. Hold Person, potential for crits depending on the save, that kind of thing. Misty Step, again, that's an ability to get around the battlefield easily. Haste on a Paladin, we've already talked about how good this is. Yeah, Haste on a Paladin is insane, especially when you look at some of the other features that we're going to get later. Haste is nuts. So yeah, overall, this is amazing. This is one of, if not the best Oath spell lists that any paladin gets access to. Really the only spell that I'm not a huge fan of is Protection from Energy. And even then it has its use. It's not a useless feature by any means. And Scrying is okay, but I don't know that I wanted to wait till 17th level to get it. I think that would be something to leave to your cleric or somebody else who could have gotten it a lot earlier. So I don't know, that doesn't seem like the best use of a 5th level spell to get here, I don't know, that's just me. So because of those two spells being what they are, I've got to give this a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's really close. The rest of the spells are all good. I don't know. I think Protection of Energy could have been something a little bit better, and Scrying could definitely have been something better. Also at level 3, we get our Channel Divinity options, and of course we get 2 options that are unique to the subclass. The first is going to be Abjure Enemy, and this is a unique take on a feature that we kind of already talked about with the Paladin. If you remember back to our Oath of Conquest, which I'll put up in the iCard above, we got something similar to this, but there is a distinct difference that I want to go over here. So with Abjure Enemy, what we can do is choose a creature that's within 60 feet of us and force it to make a Wisdom saving throw unless it's immune to being frightened. And actually, Fiends and Undead have disadvantage on this. When the save is failed, that creature is frightened for 1 minute, and its speed is reduced to 0. Even if it does succeed on the save though, its speed is going to be halved for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. We also get Vow of Enmity, and as a bonus action, we can choose a creature that is within 10 feet of us, and we gain advantage on all attack rolls against that creature for 1 minute or until it drops to 0 hit points or falls unconscious. So there's some really interesting power here, right? So let's talk about Abjure Enemy first. Abjure Enemy is very similar to the Oath of Conquest Paladin, right? Originally, we got Conquering Presence, which caused a fear effect, right? And then combined with its Aura of Conquest, we could then reduce that speed down to 0 if it was considered frightened at the time. This is both of those combined into one feature, so it's just better. Right? It's just those 2 features, but better, all in your Channel Divinity. So you're not having to waste your aura on having to do that, right? So you've got that 60-foot range rather than worrying about it being within a 10-foot radius, which is huge. It really, really opens up your options. Plus, even if they succeed on the save, they still are at half speed, so they still can't get away. And so you're going to be able to get a big hit off, or somebody is anyway. Of course, their speed would then be restored at that point, but still, I think that that's really, really helpful overall. Plus, Fiends and Undead have disadvantage, so that's going to come up pretty often. But really, I don't see that being a factor in my ranking. It's just kind of gravy on top of everything, right? Vow of Enmity, I mean, it's free advantage for a minute against one creature, right? You run up to the boss creature, do your Vow of Enmity, and then just go nuts, right? I don't think that there's any way that I can talk bad about something like that. I don't know. These Channel Divinities are kind of cracked. I've got to give these a 10 out of 10. I think they're absolutely insanely good. Both of them are going to be helpful in many different situations. I would probably use Abjure Enemy for a good chunk of the time, but I mean, Vow of Enmity, when you want to remove that boss, or that maybe you have like a mini boss or something like that coming up, when you want that out of the picture, it's there. It's there. It's very easy to do. So yeah, I would use both of these quite often, honestly. At level 7, we normally would get an extra aura here, but we actually don't get that here with Oath of Vengeance. Instead, we get a feature called Relentless Avenger. So with this, whenever we make an opportunity attack, we can move up to half our speed immediately after the attack as part of that same reaction, and that movement does not provoke opportunity attacks. So one of the biggest issues with Paladins is their lack of mobility. However, this subclass doubles down on giving you that, right? You get this free movement as part of an opportunity attack, which will come up all the time, right? It's not anything extra to do this. You're already using your reaction to make the opportunity attack. And this opportunity attack might have been at advantage with Vow of Enmity. So, I mean, that's pretty cool too, right? I think that this is interesting. It gives you an extra bit of movement. This saves you from having to use something like Misty Step, although you do have that option, right? And this allows you to reposition either closer to the enemy that's trying to get away, or maybe farther away if you're trying to get to a certain place to help out a squishy ally, if you're trying to get somewhere just for a number of things, right? If you're trying to get your Aura of Protection near somebody, your Aura of Courage later on, anything like that is going to really help you out in that case. So ultimately, it's another really good movement option. I think it's really good. I've got to give this a 9 out of 10 as well. It doesn't sound like it's going to be all that impactful, but remember, there's no limit on this. Opportunity attacks are going to happen a decent amount, right? And so I think any kind of extra mobility and saving of spell slots is going to be very useful, and that's exactly what this does. At level 15, we get Soul of Vengeance, and this is a feature that actually ties directly back to our Vow of Enmity. So with this, whenever we have a creature that is under that effect and it makes an attack roll, we can actually use our reaction to make an attack roll against that creature, assuming that it is within range. So this essentially gives us the ability to make an attack of opportunity without it being an attack of opportunity. It's kind of like the Sentinel feat. And so it doesn't necessarily say if it hits the attack, just if it makes the attack, right? So it's kind of like Sentinel, except it just happens, right? It's not necessarily if it hits someone else besides you. If they attack you, you can hit them right back. And so this gives you yet another chance to crit because you have advantage on this attack. So there's just amazing features that go into this. I mean, this is a 10 out of 10. It's another free attack without necessarily having to worry about your enemy relying on movement, right? Your enemies are going to want to make attacks, right? So that's kind of huge. So the only thing is, like, if it walks up and casts a spell, but if it's close enough that it's in melee with you, it's probably not going to be doing that. So for the most part, you're probably going to be just fine in doing this. So overall, fantastic feature. I love having this around. Finally, at level 20, we get our OP amazing feature that all paladins get, and this is called Avenging Angel. And just like all the other ones, it's insane, right? So as an action, we can activate this, and it goes for 1 hour rather than 1 minute. So this is pretty big. So we get wings that come from our back, and we get a flying speed of 60 feet, which is huge. And the first time that any creature enters the 30-foot radius around us or starts its turn there during battle, it must make a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of us, and attack rolls against frightened creatures have advantage. Yet another way for us to gain advantage on attack rolls. And that's kind of huge, right? So we get a 60-foot flying speed, so we're incredibly mobile. We have all of the other options we've gotten along the way. Plus now we can lay down this menacing aura that forces creatures to be frightened and then take attacks against them at advantage. I don't know what to tell you. This is a 10 out of 10 as well. Yes, it is really late to be getting this, but every paladin has to wait until 20th level to get something. And I will say not all of them are on this level. They're just not. And so for those reasons, I really think that this is one of, if not the best features at level 20 that any paladin gets. So what do we think of the Oath of Vengeance Paladin? I think you can tell that I really like this subclass. It's very strong. Yes, it's a little one-sided for combat, but I mean, come on, it's so good though, right? All of the features work really well together. You're forcing the frightened condition. You are gaining advantage on attacks. You're able to lock down certain enemies. You have tons of movement options. You have tons of extra damage options. You have haste. You have all of the things that a paladin really wants to have on its kit. This thing gives it to you and then gives you so much more on top of that, right? So when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at previous subclasses that I've ranked at like 8, 9, and 10, because obviously it can't go any lower than that, I'm thinking, is it just as good as my other 9s, or does this as a whole push up above those to a 10? And honestly, I've got to say the answer is yes. I think that this is pretty much the best paladin out there. It's one of them, if not. It's an absolutely insanely powerful subclass, and no matter who you are, I think you're going to absolutely love playing this very powerful build. So what do you think? Is my ranking too high? Do you think that I'm overblowing some of this stuff? Let me know down in the comments below. Later this week, of course, we're going to be building one of these together, and I'm very excited to be bringing you one of those. And then next week, of course, we move on to Oath of the Watchers, and I'm also looking forward to that as well. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.